They say you never forget the moment your child breaks your heart. But nobody tells you it'll happen on a Sunday afternoon with a casserole dish in your hands and 15 neighbors watching from their perfectly manicured lawns. I'm Michael Barrett, 56 years old. I've spent 32 years building custom motorcycles in a small workshop that somehow turned into a multi-million-dollar business. I've got grease under my fingernails that won't come out, a bad knee from a wreck in '03, and until 2 days ago, I thought I had a family that gave a damn. I was wrong. The day it happened started like any other Sunday. My wife Helen had made her famous chicken casserole, the one with the crispy breadcrumb topping that my son Danny used to beg for when he was a kid. We were heading over to his place for dinner. Nothing fancy, just family time. The kind of thing you do because you love your kids and want to stay connected even after they've grown up and moved out. I should have known something was off when Danny didn't answer my text that morning. Usually he'd send back some emoji or a quick, "See you at 6." This time, nothing. Helen noticed it too, but she brushed it off. "He's probably busy with the gym," she said. Danny had gotten really into fitness over the past year, ever since he married Vanessa. She was one of those Instagram people, always posing with green smoothies and yoga mats, talking about wellness and authentic living while filtering every photo within an inch of reality. We pulled up to their house at 6:15. The sun was still high, that golden hour light that makes suburbia look like a movie set. Their place was in one of those new developments where every house looks like it was built from the same 3 blueprints. White siding, black shutters, a 2-car garage, and a lawn maintained with the kind of obsession usually reserved for newborns. I grabbed the casserole from the back seat. Helen had her purse and a bottle of wine. We walked up the driveway together, and I remember thinking how quiet it was. No kids playing in the street, no dogs barking, just the hum of air conditioners and the distant sound of someone's leaf blower. I knocked on the door, 3 times, polite and even. Nothing. Helen rang the doorbell. We could hear it chime inside, some fancy melodic thing that probably cost more than it should have. Still nothing. "Maybe they're out back," Helen suggested. I was about to agree when the door suddenly flew open. Not opened. Flew. Like someone had yanked it with enough force to make the frame shake. Danny stood there and I barely recognized him. His face was red, jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscles jumping in his cheek. His eyes had this look, this wild, furious look that I'd never seen before. Not when he was a teenager getting caught sneaking out. Not when he wrecked my truck at 17. Never. "What the hell are you doing here?" he said. Not "Hey, Dad." Not "Come on in." Just pure venom. I blinked. "We're here for dinner. 6 o'clock like we planned." "I didn't plan anything with you." Helen stepped forward, already trying to smooth things over the way she always did. "Danny, honey, I texted Vanessa last week and she said—" "I don't care what Vanessa said." He cut her off, his voice getting louder. "You weren't invited." The casserole was getting heavy in my hands. I shifted my grip, trying to process what was happening. "Son, if this is a bad time, we can come back later." "Don't call me that." He stepped out onto the porch and I could smell beer on his breath. Day drinking wasn't Danny's style, or at least it hadn't been. "You don't get to call me son anymore." That's when I noticed the neighbors. Mrs. Patterson from across the street had stopped watering her flowers and was openly staring. The Kowalskis 2 houses down had wandered out to their mailbox even though it was Sunday and there was no mail. The Hernandezes next door were on their porch, pretending to talk, but clearly listening. Helen touched Danny's arm. "Sweetheart, what's going on? Did we do something wrong?" He jerked away from her like she'd burned him. "Do something wrong? Are you serious right now? I don't understand. You've been leeching off me for years." His voice cracked, went up an octave. People down the street were definitely listening now. "Both of you. taking advantage of my success, acting like you built something when all you did was hold me back. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Danny, that's not— Shut up! He was full-on yelling now, his face going from red to purple. I'm done with you, both of you. You're worthless parasites who can't accept that I'm the one who made something of myself. Vanessa appeared behind him, phone in hand. She wasn't recording video, but her fingers were flying across the screen. Texting, probably. Sharing this moment with whoever would listen. She had this little smile on her face, like she was watching her favorite show. Danny, I said, keeping my voice low and steady even though my hands were shaking. I think we need to talk about this inside, privately. No. He jabbed a finger at my chest, close enough that I could feel the air move. I want everyone to hear this. I want them to know what kind of people you are. You built a business? Please. I built that business. Me. While you sat in your garage playing with your little motorcycle hobby, I was out there making real money, making real connections. And what did you do? You took credit. You took my ideas, and you took my money, and you acted like you were some kind of genius entrepreneur. The casserole was slipping in my hands. I set it down on their porch railing, carefully, like if I moved too fast, everything would explode. That's not how it happened, I said. The business was mine before you ever— Before I what? Before I saved it from bankruptcy? Before I brought in actual clients who pay real money instead of your biker buddies who wanted cheap work? Helen was crying now, quiet tears running down her face. She doesn't cry easily. I've seen her stitch up a gash on her own arm without flinching, but this was breaking her. We should go, I told her. Yeah, you should, Danny shouted. And don't come back. I'm done supporting you, done letting you pretend you're relevant. You're nothing, Dad. A washed-up mechanic who got lucky 30 years ago and has been riding my coattails ever since. Mrs. Patterson had her phone out now. Recording, probably, or maybe texting her book club. The Kowalskis had moved closer, not even pretending to be subtle. I could see faces in other windows, curtains moving, people watching the show. Vanessa stepped fully outside, still typing. You should leave before we call the police, she said sweetly. This is getting uncomfortable. I looked at my son. Really looked at him. Trying to find the kid who used to hand me wrenches in the garage, who used to sit on a stool and watch me work for hours without saying a word. Trying to find any piece of that person in this angry stranger. He wasn't there. Maybe he hadn't been for a long time, and I'd just been too blind to see it. Fine, I said. We'll leave. Good. And take your crap with you. He went back inside and came out 30 seconds later with a suitcase. One of those cheap ones from a discount store, already packed. He threw it down the porch steps, and it tumbled twice before landing on the walkway, popping open and spilling some of my clothes onto their perfect lawn. That's everything you left here, he said. Don't ever ask me for anything again. Don't call. Don't text. Don't show up. Helen made a sound, somewhere between a gasp and a sob. I walked down the steps, picked up the suitcase, and started gathering my clothes. A t-shirt here, a pair of jeans there, some socks that had scattered across the grass. The neighbors were still watching. All 15 of them by now, I figured. A full audience for my humiliation. I stuffed everything back into the suitcase and zipped it up. Helen was already walking to the car, her shoulders shaking. I followed her, carrying that stupid cheap suitcase and what was left of my dignity. Behind me, I heard Vanessa's voice, bright and cheerful. Should we order Thai tonight, babe? Danny's response was too quiet to hear, but I imagined it was something normal, something domestic and mundane, like they hadn't just destroyed their relationship with the people who raised him. I put the suitcase in the trunk. Helen was in the passenger seat, her face in her hands. I got behind the wheel and started the engine. As we pulled away, I saw Mrs. Patterson talking animatedly to the Kowalskis, saw the Hernandezes pointing, saw curtains falling back into place as people retreated to their living rooms to share what they'd just witnessed. I drove in silence for 3 blocks before Helen spoke. What just happened? I don't know, I said. But that was a lie. I knew exactly what had happened. I'd been publicly disowned by my own son, humiliated in front of half a neighborhood, accused of being a parasite who'd contributed nothing to my own business. The business I'd started in a rented garage in 1992 with $2,000 and a dream of building the kind of motorcycles people would remember. The business I'd grown from nothing into something worth real money. The business Danny had joined 5 years ago, after college, after deciding that his marketing degree might actually be useful in the family trade. My business, not his. We got home 20 minutes later. Helen went straight to the bedroom. I stood in the kitchen with the casserole still in my hands, not sure what to do with it. Eventually, I put it in the fridge, knowing we wouldn't eat it, knowing it would sit there until the smell got bad and we'd throw it away, another casualty of whatever the hell just happened. I poured myself a bourbon. Straight. No ice. Sat down at the kitchen table and tried to make sense of it. Danny had been distant lately. Sure. Short phone calls, canceled dinners, always busy with something. But this kind of rage didn't come from nowhere. This was planned, rehearsed even. The way Vanessa had that suitcase ready, the way she'd been texting through the whole thing. This was a performance. My phone buzzed, a text from a number I didn't recognize. Heard about the scene at Danny's. Sorry you had to deal with that. People are saying you've been taking advantage of him financially? I stared at it. The gossip had already spread. Of course it had. Mrs. Patterson probably had a group chat that reached half the town by now. I was about to delete it when another text came through, this one from Helen's sister, Linda. What's going on? Danny posted something on Facebook about cutting off toxic family members. Are you guys okay? I opened Facebook. I rarely used it, mostly just pictures of motorcycles I liked and the occasional event post for the shop. But there it was, right at the top of my feed. Danny's post, public, already with 43 likes and 22 comments. Sometimes you have to cut toxic people out of your life, even if they're family. It's not easy, but it's necessary for growth, protecting my peace and my future. Thanks to everyone who supported me through this difficult time. The comments were full of people I didn't know, offering sympathy and encouragement. So brave. You deserve better, Vanessa had commented too. So proud of you for setting boundaries, babe. You're amazing. I closed the app, drained my bourbon, poured another. Helen came out of the bedroom, her eyes red. People are texting me, she said, asking what happened. What should I tell them? The truth. Which is what exactly? Because I still don't understand. Neither did I. Not really. But I was starting to get an idea. I pulled up my email on my phone, scrolling back through the last few weeks. There, buried between spam and customer inquiries, was a message from Danny, sent 2 weeks ago, late at night. Subject line, business transition proposal. I'd opened it at the time, skimmed it, and responded with a, let's talk about this in person. But I'd been busy with a custom build for a client in Texas, and the conversation never happened. Now I read it carefully. Danny wanted to modernize the business structure, bring in strategic partners, transition to a new generation of leadership. All very professional language, the kind you learn in business school. But buried in the third paragraph was the real point. He wanted me to transfer majority ownership to him. 60%. Enough to control everything. The proposal cited market conditions, growth potential, and generational expertise. It made me sound like a dinosaur who was holding the company back from its true potential. I forwarded the email to Helen. She read it on her phone, her face going pale. When did you get this? 2 weeks ago. And you said no? I said we'd talk about it. I never said no. I never said anything except let's discuss it in person. And you never did? No. Helen sat down across from me. So he's mad because you didn't immediately hand over the company you built? Apparently. She was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then, this doesn't make sense. Danny's not like this. He's never been this aggressive or this cruel. Something else is going on. I agreed, but I didn't know what. Not yet. My phone buzzed again. Another text. This one from a number that showed up as unknown. I almost didn't open it. Almost deleted it and went to bed and tried to forget this entire nightmare of a day. But I opened it, and everything changed. The message was short. Just one sentence, clearly meant for someone else, sent to me by mistake. He'll sign everything over once we freeze him out. 2 more days. I read it 3 times, showed it to Helen, watched her face go from confused to horrified. "Who sent this?" she asked. "I don't know. Unknown number." 2 more days until what? I didn't have an answer. Not yet. But I was going to find out. I opened my laptop and logged into the business accounts. Checking, savings, payroll, everything. All normal. Nothing missing, nothing frozen. Then I checked the corporate filings. The legal documents that defined ownership, voting rights, board structure. Everything that made Barrett Custom Cycles mine. And there it was. A new filing, dated 3 days ago. Requesting a transfer of shares. Requesting board authorization for a buyout. Requesting authority to negotiate with outside investors. All filed by Danny Barrett, Chief Operating Officer. Using forged signatures, mine and Helen's. I leaned back in my chair, feeling something cold settle in my chest. Something that wasn't quite rage and wasn't quite hurt. Something darker and more focused. My son hadn't just disowned me. He was trying to steal my company. Helen was reading over my shoulder. "Can he do this? Is this legal?" "No, but he can try. And if I don't act fast, he might get away with it." "We should call a lawyer." "Yeah," I said. "We should." But I wasn't thinking about lawyers. I was thinking about that text message. 2 more days. Whatever Danny was planning, he expected it to be done in 48 hours. I looked at the time. 6:43 p.m., Sunday evening. 48 hours would take us to Tuesday evening, middle of the week. Time enough for paperwork to be filed, for transfers to be processed, for a company to change hands if you had the right signatures and the right people convinced you were acting with authority. I thought about the scene on Danny's porch, the yelling, the accusations, the public humiliation. It hadn't been random rage, it had been tactical. Make me look unstable, make people think I was the problem, build a narrative where Danny was the victim, protecting himself from a toxic, leeching father who wouldn't let go of control. Then, once the narrative was set, execute the takeover. Quick and clean, with enough social proof that nobody would question it. It was smart, almost elegant, but it wasn't going to work. I opened a new browser tab and started searching for lawyers who specialized in business disputes. Found one with good reviews and 24/7 emergency consultation. Paid the $200 fee for an immediate callback. 15 minutes later, my phone rang. The lawyer's name was Patricia Brennan. She had a crisp, no-nonsense voice and a reputation for handling messy family business cases. I explained the situation as clearly as I could. The email, the filing, the forged signatures, the timeline. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "Mr. Barrett," she said finally, "you're in a difficult position. Your son has initiated what looks like an attempted hostile takeover of your own company. The signatures are forged, which is fraud, but proving that quickly enough to stop the process is going to be challenging. Courts move slowly. Corporate bureaucracy moves even slower. If he's got people convinced he has authority to act, he could do a lot of damage in 48 hours. So what do? You have 3 options. 1. You file an emergency injunction to freeze all corporate activity pending an investigation. That'll take at least 3 days to process, maybe longer. 2. You go public with the fraud accusations and hope the court of public opinion scares off any investors or partners he's trying to bring in. That's messy and could backfire. 3. She paused. 3, I prompted. 3, you beat him to the punch. If he's planning to force a sale or transfer, you execute your own sale first. Sell to someone you trust, or sell to yourself through a restructured entity. Make the move before he can, and make it legally airtight so there's nothing for him to contest. Can I do that? Just sell my own company? If you're the majority owner and the company structure allows it, yes. It would take some very fast legal work, but it's doable, especially if you have a willing buyer or a restructuring plan already in mind. I thought about it. Selling the company I'd built, the work I'd put into every custom bike, every satisfied customer, every late night in the garage. It felt wrong, but losing it to Danny felt worse. How fast can we move? I asked. If you're serious, I can have preliminary paperwork ready by tomorrow morning. The actual sale would take longer, but we can lock in your position before Tuesday evening. Do it. Mr. Barrett, this is a big decision. You might want to think it over. Talk to your wife. I've thought it over. Draw up the papers. Helen was watching me, her expression unreadable. When I hung up, she asked, "Are you sure about this?" "No, but I'm sure about what happens if I don't." She nodded slowly. "Then we do it together." I pulled her close, held her tight. Outside, the sun had finally set. The neighborhood was quiet again, everyone inside with their families, eating dinner and watching TV and living their normal lives. Ours was about to get a lot more complicated. But I'd been through worse. I'd started a business from nothing, built it through recessions and tough years and every obstacle that comes with small business ownership. I'd survived this too. And when it was over, Danny was going to learn a hard lesson about what happens when you try to take something from someone who has nothing left to lose. Before we go any further, hit the hype button, take a second to subscribe and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? Monday morning came too early and too bright. I'd barely slept, my mind churning through everything that had happened, replaying Danny's words, that look on Vanessa's face, the neighbors watching like it was prime-time drama. Helen was already up, sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop and a mug of coffee that had probably gone cold an hour ago. She looked tired, older somehow, lines around her eyes that I didn't remember being so deep. "Patricia sent the preliminary documents," she said without looking up. "I've been reading through them for the past hour." I poured my own coffee and sat down next to her. The documents were dense, full of legal language that made my head hurt, but the basic structure was clear enough. We'd be creating a new holding company, transferring all assets to it, then selling that company to a corporate buyer Patricia had connections with. It would effectively freeze Danny out before he could execute whatever he was planning. "It's aggressive," Helen said, "and expensive. The legal fees alone are going to cost us $20,000 minimum. Worth it if it stops him." "Mike, are you sure this is what you want? I mean, really sure? Because once we do this, there's no going back. This isn't just business. This is our son." I took a long drink of coffee, bitter and lukewarm. He stopped being our son yesterday when he threw a suitcase at us and called us parasites in front of half the neighborhood. He's angry. People say things when they're angry. This wasn't just anger, Helen. This was planned. The forged documents, the timeline, that text message. He's been working on this for weeks, maybe months. She closed the laptop, finally meeting my eyes. I know. I just keep hoping there's some explanation that makes sense, some reason that isn't him just being cruel. Maybe there is. Maybe Vanessa's pushing him, or he's in some kind of financial trouble and thinks taking over the company is the only way out. Maybe he's just an entitled asshole who thinks he deserves everything I built because he showed up and did some marketing. Mike, I'm sorry. I know he's your son. He's mine too. But I'm not going to sit here and let him destroy 30 years of work because he's having some kind of midlife crisis at 33. My phone rang. Patricia. Good morning, Mr. Barrett. I'm assuming you got the documents? We did. We're ready to move forward. Excellent. I need you and Helen to come to my office this morning to sign preliminary agreements. I've also arranged a meeting with the potential buyer at 2 p.m. They're very interested, but they'll want to do some basic due diligence before committing. Who's the buyer? Apex Holdings. They're a corporate consolidator, mostly interested in manufacturing and specialty businesses. They've acquired several custom shops over the past few years. Good reputation, fair prices, and most importantly, they can move fast. I felt something twist in my gut. Selling to a corporate consolidator meant Barrett Custom Cycles would probably lose its name, its soul, everything that made it special. But it also meant the company would survive, even if I wouldn't be running it anymore. "I'll send you the address," Patricia continued. "Be there by 10. We were there by 9:45. Patricia's office was downtown, in one of those new glass buildings that looked like it belonged in a bigger city. Everything was sleek and modern and expensive, from the marble floors to the abstract art on the walls. Patricia herself was mid-40s, sharp-looking, with short dark hair and a handshake that could crack walnuts. She led us into a conference room and spread documents across the table like she was dealing cards. "Before we get into the specifics of the sale," she said, "I need to understand exactly what your son has access to. Corporate accounts, passwords, physical keys, everything." I ran through it. Danny was listed as COO on paper, which gave him signatory authority on most operational accounts. He had keys to the main workshop and the satellite location we'd opened 2 years ago. He had access to customer databases, supplier contracts, and the company credit cards. "But he can't transfer ownership," I said. "That requires board approval, and I'm the only board member besides Helen." Patricia made notes. "He can't transfer legal ownership, no. But he can do significant damage to the company's operations and reputation if he wants to. Especially if he convinces your suppliers or customers that he's acting with your authority." "He's already started that process," Helen said quietly. "I checked our business social media this morning. He posted an announcement that there would be exciting changes coming to Barrett Custom Cycles and that the company was entering a new era of growth and innovation." I felt my jaw clench. "He posted that on our company page?" "He has admin access. I can remove him, but then he'll know we're onto him." Patricia nodded. "Leave it for now. The more rope we give him, the more he'll hang himself. Document everything he posts, every announcement he makes, every person he contacts. It'll be useful if this ends up in court." "If?" I asked. "When?" "This is definitely heading for litigation. Your son is attempting to defraud you, and he's doing it publicly. That's going to leave a trail." We spent the next hour going through every document, every signature, every detail that would make the restructuring legally bulletproof. By the time we finished, my hand was cramping from signing my name so many times. Patricia gathered everything into a neat folder. "All right, the preliminary agreements are filed. Now we wait for Apex to do their due diligence and make an offer. In the meantime, I need you to avoid any contact with your son. Don't respond to messages, don't answer calls, nothing. If he tries to approach you in person, document it, but don't engage." "That won't be hard," I said. We left the office at 11:30. Helen wanted to grab lunch, but I wasn't hungry. Instead, we drove to the workshop. I needed to see it, needed to remind myself what I was fighting for. Barrett Custom Cycles occupied a converted warehouse on the edge of town, right where industrial met residential. It wasn't fancy from the outside, just a big metal building with our logo painted on the side, but inside, it was organized chaos. Half-finished motorcycles on lifts, tools everywhere, the smell of motor oil and metal and paint. My kingdom. The main bay was empty, which was unusual for a Monday. Usually, we had at least 2 or 3 mechanics working on builds, but today, nothing. Just silence and dust motes floating in the sunlight coming through the high windows. "Where is everyone?" Helen asked. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Marcus, our head mechanic. 2 from Jamie, the parts manager. 1 from Terrence, who handled most of our custom paint jobs. I called Marcus back. He answered on the first ring. "Mike, thank God. What the hell is going on?" "What do you mean?" "Danny came by this morning, told everyone to take the day off, said there were going to be major changes, and he'd call us when things were sorted out." He what? He emptied the shop, sent everyone home. Then he locked himself in your office and has been in there for the past 2 hours. I was already walking toward the back of the building where my office was. The door was closed, light visible underneath. I tried the handle. Locked. Danny! I pounded on the door. Open up! This is my shop! No response. I pounded harder. Danny, I swear to God! The door opened. Danny stood there, looking calm and composed, like he hadn't just staged a coup in my own business. Behind him, I could see my desk covered in papers, my computer open, file cabinets pulled open. What are you doing? I demanded. What I should have done months ago. Taking control of a company that's being run into the ground by someone who refuses to accept that his time is over. This is my company. Not for much longer. He tried to close the door. I caught it with my foot, pushed back. We stood there for a moment, two men in a doorway, fighting over a threshold like it meant everything. It did mean everything. Get out of my office, I said. Make me. Helen pulled on my arm. Mike, don't. He's trying to provoke you. She was right. I could see it in his eyes, that calculating look. He wanted me to get physical, wanted to create another scene he could use as evidence that I was unstable and unfit to run the company. I stepped back. Fine, stay in there. It doesn't matter anymore. Why? Danny's expression flickered just for a second. Uncertainty. What did you do? You'll find out soon enough. I turned and walked away, Helen beside me. Behind us, Danny called out, You can't stop this. I have investors lined up. I have contracts ready to sign. Good for you, I said without looking back. We drove home in silence. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel, adrenaline and rage mixing into something that made my vision tunnel. We need to know who he's working with, Helen said. The investors he mentioned. The contracts. Patricia will find out during the due diligence process. That could take days. We need to know now. She had a point. I thought about it, running through everyone Danny had mentioned over the past few months. Business contacts, potential partners, people he'd met at networking events. Then I remembered something. A name he'd dropped at Christmas, casually, like it wasn't important. Trevor Gallagher. Trevor was Danny's college roommate, and they'd stayed close after graduation. He'd gone into venture capital, made good money backing tech startups and business acquisitions. Last I'd heard, he was looking to expand into manufacturing and specialty industries. Perfect fit for someone looking to fund a hostile takeover of a custom motorcycle shop. I called Marcus again. Do you have access to Danny's office email? Technically, yeah. He uses the same computer as the rest of us. I need you to check his sent folder. Look for anything addressed to Trevor Gallagher. Mike, I don't know if I should... Marcus, my son is trying to steal my company. I need to know what he's planning. A pause. Then, give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes later, Marcus called back. You're not going to like this. Tell me. There's an email chain going back 3 months. Danny's been pitching Trevor on investing in Barrett custom cycles, but he's been framing it like you're stepping down voluntarily, like you approached him about succession planning and he's just helping facilitate the transition. That's a lie. I know. But that's what he told Trevor, and Trevor bought it. There's an email from last week where Trevor commits to a $2 million investment in exchange for 40% equity. My stomach dropped. $2 million? Plus operational control. The deal gives Danny full authority to run the company however he wants, and you get pushed into a consultant role with no actual power. Helen had been listening on speaker. Her face had gone pale. How is this legal? How can Danny promise equity he doesn't own? He can't, I said. But if he's convincing enough, if he's got the paperwork looking official enough, Trevor might not question it until it's too late. So what do? We call Trevor ourselves, before Danny can close the deal. I didn't have Trevor's number, but I had LinkedIn, found his profile in 30 seconds, sent a message marked urgent, and included my phone number. Then I called his office directly, got his assistant, and left another urgent message. 20 minutes later, he called back. "Mr. Barrett, I got several messages from you. Is everything okay?" "No, Trevor, everything is not okay. I need to know what my son told you about our business arrangement." "I'm sorry?" "Danny. He's been pitching you on investing in Barrett Custom Cycles. I need to know exactly what he told you." Trevor's voice got careful. "Mr. Barrett, I understood from Danny that you were looking to semi-retire and wanted to bring in strategic capital to help with succession planning." "I'm not retiring. I never said anything about retiring, and I sure as hell didn't authorize Danny to go shopping for investors." Silence on the other end. Then, "Are you saying Danny misrepresented his authority?" "I'm saying my son is attempting to steal my company, and he's using you to do it." "That's a serious accusation." "It's a serious situation. Check your paperwork, Trevor. Check the signatures on any documents Danny gave you. I guarantee you'll find irregularities." "I'll need to consult with my legal team." "You do that, and while you're at it, pull out of whatever deal Danny offered you, because I promise you it's not worth the lawsuit you're going to face if you proceed." I hung up. Helen was looking at me with something like awe. That was risky. Maybe, but Trevor's not stupid. He'll check, and when he realizes Danny lied to him, the whole deal falls apart. What if he doesn't check? What if he believes Danny over you? Then we make sure everyone else knows the truth. I opened my laptop and started typing. A statement, clear and direct, explaining that any announcements about ownership changes or investment deals made by Danny Barrett were unauthorized and fraudulent. That I, Michael Barrett, remained the sole controlling owner of Barrett Custom Cycles, and that any business conducted without my explicit written approval was invalid. I posted it on every social media platform the business had: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, even Twitter. Then I sent it directly to every major supplier, every regular customer, everyone on our business email list. Within minutes, the responses started coming in. Confusion, mostly. Some support, a few people asking if this meant the company was in trouble. But the message was out there. Danny couldn't claim authority anymore without people questioning it. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You're making a mistake. Last chance to do this the easy way." I showed it to Helen. "That's him, isn't it?" "Has to be." Another text, seconds later. "Sign the company over by tomorrow night or I go public with everything. Every debt, every close call, every time you almost lost everything. I'll make sure everyone knows you're a fraud who got lucky." I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger this time, something colder and more focused. "Let him," I said. "Let him try." Because here's what Danny didn't understand. What he'd never understood despite working alongside me for 5 years. I'd built this company from nothing. I'd survived bankruptcy scares and market crashes and every kind of setback imaginable. I had nothing to hide, nothing to be ashamed of. Every close call was a story of survival. Every debt was paid. Every challenge was overcome. Danny thought he could scare me with the truth. The truth was my weapon. I texted back, "Do your worst." Then I turned to Helen. "Call Patricia. Tell her we need to accelerate the timeline. I want Apex's offer by tomorrow morning." "Mike, I'm done playing defense. It's time to end this." Helen made the call. Patricia promised to push Apex hard, said they'd been impressed with the preliminary numbers and were likely to move fast anyway. We spent the rest of the afternoon at the kitchen table, going through every document, every contract, every piece of paper that proved I owned Barrett Custom Cycles, and Danny had no claim to it. Building our case, preparing for war. At 6 p.m., my phone rang. Patricia again. "I have good news and complicated news," she said. "Start with the good. Apex is interested. They're prepared to make an offer of $8 million for full acquisition. That's higher than I expected, honestly. They see a lot of potential in your brand and customer base. $8 million. For the company, I'd started with 2,000. What's the complicated news? They want to close by Wednesday morning. That's 48 hours from now. They're concerned about the instability around your son's claims, and they want to lock in the purchase before any legal challenges can be filed. 48 hours. The same timeline Danny had given himself. So it's a race, I said. Essentially, yes. Whoever closes their deal first controls the company. If Danny convinces Trevor or anyone else to move forward with his investment before we close with Apex, things get much more complicated. Then we make sure we close first. Mr. Barrett, I need to be clear about what this means. If you sell to Apex, you're walking away from Barrett Custom Cycles entirely. No ownership, no control, no say in how they run things. You'll get the money, but you'll lose everything else. I know. And you're okay with that? I looked at Helen. She nodded, just slightly. Yeah, I said. I'm okay with it, because the alternative is watching my son destroy everything I built and take credit for it. All right, I'll tell Apex we're moving forward. Be in my office tomorrow at 9 a.m. to finalize paperwork. Bring every document you have proving ownership, every contract, every corporate filing. This needs to be absolutely airtight. We'll be there. I hung up and sat back, feeling exhausted and wired at the same time. Helen reached across the table and took my hand. Are you sure about this? She asked. Really? Truly sure? No. But I'm doing it anyway. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Danny as a kid, the way he used to follow me around the garage, asking a million questions about every tool and every technique, the way he'd beam with pride when I let him help with something, even if it was just handing me a wrench. Where had that kid gone? When had he turned into someone who could look me in the eye and call me worthless? Around midnight, I got up and went to the garage. My personal workshop, separate from the business, where I kept my own bikes and projects. My sanctuary. I turned on the lights and just stood there, looking at the half-finished chopper I'd been building for the past year. Custom frame, hand-fabricated parts, every piece chosen and placed with care. I'd never finish it now, not with everything that was happening. The garage door opened behind me, Helen, in her bathrobe. Can't sleep? She asked. Nope. She came and stood beside me, looking at the bike. You should finish this, after everything is settled. Maybe. Not maybe. You should. Because no matter what happens with the company, you're still a builder. That's who you are. I pulled her close, buried my face in her hair. I don't know who I am anymore. You're my husband, and you're the man who built something amazing from nothing. Danny can try to take that away, but he can't. Not really. The work is yours. The skill is yours. The reputation is yours. He can steal the company name, but he can't steal that. She was right. She was always right. We stood there for a while in the quiet garage, surrounded by tools and metal and the smell of oil. My kingdom, smaller than Barrett Custom Cycles, but entirely mine. Tomorrow would be brutal. I knew that. Danny would find out about the Apex deal, and he'd fight it with everything he had. But I was ready. For the first time since Sunday afternoon, I felt something other than hurt and confusion. I felt determined. Wednesday night, 11 p.m., and I couldn't sleep again. My mind kept cycling through everything that had happened, replaying Danny's words, the smash of the brick through our window, the cold weight of signing away my company. Helen was asleep beside me, finally, after hours of tossing and turning. I got up quietly, careful not to wake her, and went downstairs. Made coffee even though the last thing I needed was more caffeine. Just needed something to do with my hands. My phone buzzed on the counter. Text message from Marcus. Mike, you need to see this. Danny was at the workshop tonight. Not sure what he was doing, but it looked bad. Might want to check on things. I called him. He answered immediately, voice low. I was driving past on my way home, he said. Saw lights on in the warehouse section. Thought maybe it was the new owners already moving stuff around, but then I saw Danny's truck parked out back. Danny's supposed to be in custody. Yeah, well, He's not. He's in your warehouse right now. I felt something cold settle in my chest. What's he doing? Don't know. Didn't get close enough to see, but Mike, whatever it is, it's not good. He was moving fast, looked agitated. I'm heading there now. Want me to meet you? No, stay out of this. It's between him and me. I hung up and went to the bedroom. Helen was still asleep, breathing steady. I didn't wake her. This was something I needed to do alone. The drive to the workshop took 15 minutes through empty streets. The neighborhood was dark, most houses showing no lights, everyone asleep and safe in their normal lives. I envied them. Sure enough, Danny's truck was parked by the back entrance, the one employees used for loading and unloading. The main building was dark, but the warehouse section showed lights through the high windows. I sat in my car for a moment, trying to decide what to do. Call the police. But what would I tell them? My son was in a building I no longer owned, possibly doing something illegal, but I had no proof of anything except that he was there. No, this was between us. Had been since Sunday when he threw that suitcase at me. I got out of the car quietly and walked toward the building. The back door was propped open with a wooden wedge, which meant Danny was planning a quick exit if he needed one. Smart. I slipped inside. The building was quiet except for sounds coming from deeper in the warehouse section. Metal scraping, footsteps, Danny's voice muttering to himself. The warehouse was where we kept finished bikes waiting for pickup. Expensive custom builds worth anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000 each. We also stored high-end parts there, rare components that were hard to find and harder to replace. If Danny was stealing inventory, he could do serious damage before anyone noticed. I moved quietly through the main shop floor, staying in the shadows. The warehouse section was separated by a heavy metal door, currently standing open. Light spilled through, harsh fluorescent, casting sharp shadows. I edged closer and looked through the doorway. Danny was there, working fast, loading parts into plastic bins. Not random parts either. He was taking the expensive stuff. Rare carburetor assemblies, custom machined engine components, a set of limited edition chrome pipes that had cost $12,000. He was stealing from a company he no longer had any claim to. Stealing from Apex Holdings, who just paid $8 million for the privilege of owning this inventory. This wasn't just desperate. This was stupid. I stepped into the doorway. What are you doing? Danny spun around, dropping a bin. Parts scattered across the concrete floor with a metallic crash. His face went through several expressions in quick succession. Surprise, anger. Something that might have been shame before it was replaced with defiance. What does it look like? He said. Taking what's mine. Nothing here is yours. Not anymore. Not ever, really, but definitely not now. You sold my future. Everything I worked for. Everything I worked for. I built this company 30 years before you decided to grace it with your presence. He took a step toward me. You had no right to sell without telling me. I had every right. It was my company. It should have been mine. I earned it. By forging documents and lying to investors. That's how you earn things. Danny's jaw clenched. I was trying to save the company from you. You were running it into the ground with your old school methods and your refusal to adapt. We were profitable every year. We had a loyal customer base. We were growing steadily. What exactly was I running into the ground? The potential. The real potential. We could have been huge, could have expanded nationwide, could have been a major brand, but you were content to stay small and scared. I was content to build quality bikes and make good money doing it. That's not scared. That's smart. It's cowardly. We stared at each other across 20 feet of warehouse space, father and son, and I barely recognized him. This angry, desperate person wasn't the kid I'd raised. Or maybe he was, and I'd just never seen it before. Put the parts back, I said. Walk away, before this gets worse. Worse than you already made it? I don't think that's possible. Danny, I'm asking you nicely. I don't care what you're asking. He grabbed another bin and started loading more parts, deliberately ignoring me, showing he didn't respect me enough to even acknowledge the request. I walked into the warehouse, heading for him. I said, "Put them back." "Make me." "Danny, make me, old man." He threw the bin at me. I dodged, and it crashed into a wall behind me, parts scattering everywhere, thousands of dollars of components rolling across the floor. I moved faster, closing the distance between us. Danny grabbed a wrench off a workbench, held it like a weapon. "Stay back," he said. "Put the wrench down." "I said stay back." He swung at me. Not hard enough to do serious damage, but enough to make his point. I ducked, grabbed his wrist, twisted. The wrench clattered to the ground. Danny tried to pull away, but I held on, using his own momentum to spin him around and push him against a shelving unit. "Stop," I said. "Just stop." "Get off me!" He thrashed, stronger than I expected, younger and angrier. His elbow caught me in the ribs and I lost my grip. He shoved me backward and I stumbled, catching myself on a workbench. For a moment, we just looked at each other, both breathing hard. "Why couldn't you just give it to me?" Danny asked. And there was something in his voice. Something younger, more vulnerable. "Why couldn't you just let me have it?" "Because you didn't earn it by trying to steal it. You want to build your own company? Fine. Do it the way I did. Start from nothing and work your ass off. But you don't get to take mine just because you think you deserve it. I worked in this company for 5 years. As an employee, a well-paid employee, but an employee. That doesn't make you entitled to ownership. I'm your son, and that should have meant something. But you threw it away when you decided to forge documents and lie to investors and try to steal from me." Danny's face crumpled. For just a second, he looked like a kid again, lost and confused and hurting. Then the moment passed, and the anger was back. "This isn't over," he said. "You think you've won, but you haven't. I'm going to fight this. I'm going to sue Apex. Sue you. Tell everyone what kind of person you really are. Go ahead, I've got nothing to hide. We'll see about that." He started toward the door. I moved to block him. "Leave the parts," I said. "They're evidence. I'm taking them to show the court how you've been mismanaging inventory. They're stolen property and you're committing theft. Leave them. Make me." Two stubborn men who'd once been father and son, now just opponents in a fight neither of us knew how to end. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Multiple people moving through the main shop toward the warehouse. "Mike, you in here?" Marcus, with what sounded like at least 2 other people. Danny heard it too. His eyes widened. "You called them?" "No, but I'm glad they're here." Marcus appeared in the doorway, along with Jamie, the parts manager, and Terrence, the paint guy. They all looked at the scene, the scattered parts, Danny backed against a shelf, me blocking the exit. "What's going on?" Marcus asked carefully. "Danny's stealing inventory," I said. "I caught him loading parts into his truck." "That's a lie," Danny said. "I was documenting evidence of mismanagement. With plastic bins and a truck parked out back? Come on, Danny. Even you can come up with a better story than that." Marcus pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the police." "No, wait," Danny started. "You're trespassing," Marcus said. "In a building you have no right to be in, taking property that doesn't belong to you. That's theft. Pretty clear cut." "Mike, tell him..." "Tell him what?" I asked. "That you're my son and I should give you special treatment after everything you've done?" Danny looked around at all of us, realizing he was trapped. 4 men between him and the exit, his truck parked outside where the police could find it easily, evidence scattered all over the warehouse floor. He'd lost, and he knew it. "Fine," he said. "Call the cops. See if I care. But this doesn't end here. You're going to regret this." "I already regret plenty," I said. "But stopping you from stealing? That's not one of them." Marcus made the call. The police arrived 12 minutes later, the same two young officers who'd come about the broken window. They didn't look happy to be called out again for what they clearly saw as a family dispute. But theft was theft, regardless of relationships. They took statements from all of us, photographed the evidence, loaded Danny into the back of their patrol car. Thursday morning brought news I should have expected, but somehow didn't see coming. Trevor Gallagher had filed a civil suit against Danny for fraud, seeking to recover his $2 million investment plus damages. The story made the local business section, complete with Danny's mugshot from his arrest. I sat at the kitchen table reading the article on my phone while Helen made breakfast neither of us would eat. Daniel Barrett, son of local businessman Michael Barrett, is facing multiple charges, including corporate fraud, theft, and breaking and entering. I read aloud. The younger Barrett allegedly forged documents to secure a $2 million investment from venture capitalist Trevor Gallagher, claiming authority he did not possess to negotiate equity stakes in his father's company. Helen set a plate of eggs in front of me. They make it sound so cold and factual. It is cold and factual. It's our family falling apart in public. I couldn't argue with that. Whatever satisfaction I'd felt about stopping Danny's schemes was getting complicated by the reality of watching his life implode in real time. My phone rang. Patricia. "Have you seen the news?" she asked. "Just reading it now." "Good. Then you know Danny's arraignment is this afternoon. I thought you should also know that Vanessa filed for divorce this morning." I felt something twist in my chest. She what? Filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and abandonment of marital responsibilities. She's also seeking a restraining order, claiming Danny has become emotionally unstable and potentially dangerous. Is he dangerous? Probably not to her. But the optics are terrible for him. Wife leaving, arrests mounting, civil suit pending, he's becoming radioactive. What about the fraud charges? What's he looking at? Depends on the prosecutor and the judge. Best case, probation and fines. Worst case, 2 to 3 years. But given the amount involved and the premeditation, I'd expect something in the middle. Jail time, but not a lot. And the theft charge from last night? That's separate but related. Adds weight to the fraud case, shows a pattern of behavior. He's in serious trouble, Mike. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I just felt tired. Keep me updated, I said. Will do. And Mike? Prepare yourself for blowback. Danny's going to try to make himself look like the victim in all this. It's going to get messy. She was right about that part. By noon, Danny had given an interview to a local reporter. I found it on the newspaper's website, headline reading, "Local entrepreneur says father stole his future." In the article, Danny painted himself as a dutiful son who'd worked tirelessly to modernize his father's failing business, only to be shut out when he tried to save it. He claimed I'd sold the company in a fit of spite, that the fraud charges were a misunderstanding, that the theft accusation was revenge for his attempts to protect the family legacy. It was all lies, but it was compelling lies, the kind that would make people question whether maybe I was the villain in this story. The reporter had tried to contact me for comment. I hadn't responded. Patricia had advised me to stay quiet, let the facts speak for themselves. But facts were complicated, stories were simple, and Danny's story was very simple. Evil father destroys ambitious son's dreams. Helen read the article over my shoulder. He's playing the victim. Of course he is. It's the only card he has left. What are we going to do about it? Nothing. Let him talk. Truth will come out eventually. But I wasn't as confident as I sounded. Public opinion was a strange thing. People loved an underdog story, and Danny was positioning himself as exactly that. My phone started buzzing with messages. Some from friends and former customers asking if the article was true. Some from acquaintances who'd apparently already decided I was the villain, telling me I should be ashamed of myself. The worst was from Helen's sister, Linda. I don't know what's going on with you and Danny, but destroying your own son's life seems extreme. Maybe you should think about making amends before this gets worse." Helen read it and went pale. She thinks this is our fault. People are going to believe what they want to believe. But we didn't do anything wrong. We sold a company Danny thought he was entitled to. In some people's eyes, that's wrong enough. I was about to put my phone away when I got a notification. Vanessa had posted on Instagram a carefully crafted message about choosing yourself and walking away from toxic situations. The post included a photo of her looking brave and vulnerable, staring into the distance with perfect lighting. The comments were full of support. "So proud of you. You deserve better. Stay strong." Not one person asked what had actually happened. They just accepted Vanessa's narrative at face value. I showed Helen. She sighed. "This is going to get worse, isn't it?" "Probably." And it did. By evening, local Facebook groups were discussing the story. The neighborhood watch group, where Mrs. Patterson was a moderator, had a whole thread about it. People sharing opinions, speculating about what really happened, offering conflicting accounts based on the Sunday dinner scene. Mrs. Patterson herself had posted, "I saw the confrontation between Michael and Danny Barrett last Sunday. It was clear even then that there was serious tension in that family. What's happening now doesn't surprise me at all." Like she had any real insight beyond what she'd witnessed from across the street. But people ate it up. The thread had over 100 comments, most of them painting Danny as a victim of an overbearing father who couldn't let go of control. I closed Facebook before I could see more. "I need to do something," I said to Helen. "Like what?" "I don't know. But sitting here watching Danny control the narrative isn't working." Patricia said to stay quiet. Patricia isn't the one being called a vindictive father who destroyed his own son's life. I paced the kitchen, thinking. Danny had the sympathy angle covered. He had Vanessa's support on social media. He had that newspaper article painting him as ambitious and wronged. What did I have? The truth, the documents, the evidence of his fraud, and something else. Something Danny probably didn't even remember existed. 3 months ago, before any of this started, Danny had been at the workshop late one night. I'd stopped by to grab some tools and found him in his office on a phone call. He'd been speaking loudly, agitated, and hadn't noticed me in the hallway. I'd heard him clearly. "No, Trevor, you don't understand. My father's methods are outdated. The company's stagnating because he refuses to modernize. I'm telling you, if we can push him out, this business could triple in value within 2 years. He's the problem, not the solution." At the time, I'd convinced myself I'd misheard or misunderstood, that Danny was just venting frustration, not plotting a takeover. But I'd also pulled out my phone and recorded the last 30 seconds of the conversation. Just in case. I'd forgotten about it until now. I found the recording in my phone's voice memos. The audio wasn't great, muffled and distant, but it was clear enough. Danny's voice saying, "Push him out," and "He's the problem, not the solution." I played it for Helen. "Is that enough?" she asked. "Enough to show he was planning this long before the scene on Sunday?" "Yeah." "Enough to change public opinion?" "Maybe." "Patricia's not going to like this." "I know." I called Patricia anyway. She answered on the second ring. "Before you say anything," I started, "I know you told me to stay quiet." "What did you do?" "Nothing yet, but I have a recording of Danny discussing plans to push me out of the company. It's from 3 months ago, before any of the fraud or forged documents, and you're thinking about releasing it. I'm thinking about defending myself." Patricia was quiet for a moment. "Releasing that recording could be seen as retaliation. It might make you look vindictive." "I already look vindictive according to half the town." "Mike, I understand you're frustrated, but trust me on this. Let the legal process play out. Let the fraud charges and the evidence speak for themselves. Engaging in a public back and forth with your son makes this look like a petty family squabble instead of what it is. a clear case of attempted corporate theft. So I just let him control the narrative? For now, yes. It won't matter in court what people think. It'll matter what the evidence shows. And we have all the evidence. I knew she was right, but it didn't make it any easier to watch Danny's victim story spread while I stayed silent. Fine, I said. But if this gets worse, I'm using the recording. Fair enough, but check with me first. I hung up and looked at Helen. She says stay quiet. Are you going to? For now. Friday morning, Danny's arraignment happened. I didn't attend, but Patricia called me afterward with the results. He pled not guilty to all charges. Judge set bail at $50,000. If he can post it, he'll be released pending trial. Can he post it? Doubtful. His assets are frozen pending the civil suit, and I don't think anyone's going to help him after Vanessa's divorce filing. He'll probably stay in custody until the trial. When's the trial? 2 months? Maybe 3? These things take time. 2 or 3 months of Danny sitting in jail, thinking about how his life had fallen apart. 2 or 3 months of public speculation and neighborhood gossip. It should have felt like justice. Instead, it just felt like waste. That afternoon, I got an unexpected call. Gregory Brennan from Apex Holdings. Mr. Barrett, I wanted to update you on the transition. We've been conducting interviews with your former employees, and I have to say, the loyalty they have to you is remarkable. Several of them asked if there's any way you could be involved in the business going forward. I sold the company. I'm out. I understand, but I wanted to extend an offer anyway. We'd like you to stay on as a consultant. Part-time advisory role only, helping us understand the custom motorcycle market and maintaining relationships with your longtime customers. No management responsibilities, just your expertise and experience. Why would you want that? I sold you the company to be done with it. Because the Barrett name still means something in this industry, and because your former employees trust you in a way they don't trust us yet. Having you involved, even peripherally, would smooth the transition significantly. I don't know. Think about it. The offer stands if you change your mind. He hung up, leaving me staring at my phone. Stay involved with Barrett Custom Cycles, the company I'd sold to get away from all this mess? Helen came into the room. What was that about? I explained Brennan's offer. She listened carefully, then said, Do you want to go back? I don't know. Part of me does. I miss the work, miss being around the bikes and the builds, but being there would mean facing all the employees who know what happened with Danny, would mean walking through a building that used to be mine, but isn't anymore. Would it be worth it? I honestly don't know. We spent the weekend quietly, avoiding social media and news and anything related to Danny or the company. Just us at home, trying to remember what normal felt like. On Sunday, Helen's sister Linda called. I owe you an apology, she said. I saw the arraignment report. I didn't realize how serious the fraud charges were, or that Danny had actually forged documents. I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions. It's okay, Helen said. Everyone's been jumping to conclusions. I just assumed there was some kind of misunderstanding, that it couldn't be as bad as the news made it sound. But Danny really did try to steal the company, didn't he? Yeah, he really did. Linda was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry, for both of you. This must be awful. It is, Helen said simply. After they hung up, Helen looked at me. That's one person who knows the truth now. How many more do we need to convince? All of them. But I don't have the energy for it. Then what do? We wait. We let the trial happen. We let the evidence speak. And we try to rebuild our lives while everyone else argues about whose fault this was. It wasn't much of a plan. But it was all I had. Monday morning brought another complication. Someone had leaked the recording I'd made of Danny's phone call. I didn't leak it, and Helen swore she hadn't, which meant someone else had access to it. I realized with a sick feeling that I'd played it on speakerphone while Marcus and the others were at the warehouse. Someone must have recorded it. Now it was all over social media. People dissecting it, arguing about whether it proved premeditation or was just taken out of context. The narrative was shifting slightly, some people starting to question whether Danny was really the victim he'd claimed to be. But it wasn't the clean vindication I'd hoped for. It was just more mess, more drama, more fuel for the fire. Patricia called, her voice tight. "Did you leak that recording?" "No. Someone else must have recorded it when I played it at the warehouse." "Mike, this is going to complicate the trial. Defense will argue it was obtained illegally, that it's inadmissible." "I recorded my own son's conversation. How is that illegal?" "Depending on the state laws about consent and recording, it might be. We'll have to fight to keep it admitted as evidence." "But it proves he was planning the takeover. It proves he was frustrated with your management style. That's not the same as proving fraud. You're not a lawyer, Mike. Stop trying to be one." She hung up, leaving me standing in the kitchen, feeling like I'd just made everything worse. Helen looked at me. "What now?" "Now we wait for the trial and hope the recording doesn't get thrown out." "And if it does?" "Then we hope the forged documents and Trevor's testimony are enough." It wasn't reassuring, but it was the truth. The week passed slowly. Danny remained in custody, unable to post bail. Vanessa's divorce proceedings moved forward. The neighborhood gossip continued, though the narrative was starting to shift toward uncertainty rather than clear judgment. And through it all, I kept thinking about Gregory Brennan's offer. The consultant position at Barrett Custom Cycles. Part of me wanted to say yes, wanted to stay connected to the work I loved. But another part knew that going back would mean never really moving on from what had happened. I still hadn't decided when Friday afternoon arrived, with another phone call from Patricia. "We have a trial date, 8 weeks from now, and Mike?" The recording was admitted. Judge ruled that since you were recording your own property during business hours, there's no expectation of privacy issue. That's good news, right? That's very good news. It means we can show premeditation, show that Danny was planning this long before the actual fraud occurred. For the first time in days, I felt something like hope. So we might actually win this? We're going to win this. The evidence is overwhelming. Danny's going to be convicted, probably do some jail time, and definitely pay massive fines and restitution. Justice is coming, Mike. Slow, but coming. I hung up and told Helen. She smiled, really smiled, for the first time in over a week. "It's almost over," she said. "Yeah, almost." But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't really over. Maybe it never would be. Because even if Danny went to jail, even if justice was served in a legal sense, I'd still lost my son. And no amount of money or vindication was going to fix that.